In today's case, I'll show you live how I handle upper expansion to solve lower crowding. From unpacking teeth one by one to working around missing records like x-rays. Then you're going to have so much more aligners in your setup. You put on braces, it just pulls the teeth out. If you don't allow for micro spaces, you're going to have collisions. This is a case that needs alignment. So let's see, we've got a lot of crowding in the bottom, collapsed arch, the fourth, especially in the fourth quadrant, 4th and 5s blocked out to the lingual. Molar that's a little bit out to the buccal. This alignment is not too bad. Contact there that needs to be fixed there as well, and then these aligners. Now, the bottom arch needs space. The top, I don't have that much of a space problem. I immediately notice the difference in the size of the lateral incisors, a little bit of crowding there, and again, the collapsed or the narrowed arches on the premolar area. As the bottom arch is like the vehicle parked into the garage. You need a large enough garage, the maxilla, to be able to park the mandible there. So in this case, although I need space for the mandible, I'm going to have to work in the maxilla to create space for this mandible to move in. I need expansion in the mandible to be able to align. So firstly, can I expand in the maxilla? The question is, what controls expansion in terms of aligners? So let's have a look. There we have it. And there's a crossbite that indicates that we need expansion. Looking at the patient's face, which I'm not showing, is she's showing dark buccal corridors, so she can do with expansion. And also looking at the case, I can immediately see on the right-hand side, the arch is wider than on the left-hand side, and that is also where my collapse is, more than on that side. Then looking at the bottom, also a lot on that side, and that represents my crossbite. Now, when I pre-processed this case, as designer, I'm not in charge of the pre-processing. And as a dentist, when you submit cases, it is pre-processed by the company which you make use of. But it's so important for you to give them the information they need to do a proper design. When I received this case, I immediately saw a midline discrepancy, and I saw the crossbite in the fourth quadrant. And if you look at the size of the buccal cusp of the 4-6, that it's in crossbite, and you look at the difference in the midline shift, in the midline, then I can see that there's most probably the mandible is parked skew into this garage. So I corrected the bite, I corrected the midline, although it is not the way that the dentist has submitted it. And I will send them a note and say that my clinical interpretation of the situation is that the crossbite is the position of the mandibular incising out of line is causing the crossbite. That I fixed it, and they must check the bite in the mouth before they approve the design. So in this situation, you can see midline sorted out, that crossbite slightly there. And this will also make that I have less aligners than if this mandible, the way that I received it, it was, let's see if I can, left-right joint incisal, that's not going to help me. So displacement, no, this is not going to help me. So let's have a look at this one. If I move the mandible, no, this is not really going to help me a lot. Yeah, so let's just leave that. So let's work from here. So I need expansion both sides. I need more expansion on the right-hand quadrant than on the left. And now, the truth about aligner expansion, there are two truths. The truth that the designers sit with, that you as a dentist, when you submit a case, must take into consideration, and the truth about the clinical expression of aligner expansion. So let's first focus on the truth of the mechanics, the biomechanics that happen. When you work with fixed braces and wires, the wires pull on the outside and the force level is much higher than when you use aligners. With the lighter forces of aligners, you can't allow any collisions because that is going to cause your teeth not to move. So you put on braces, it just pulls the teeth out. But with aligners pushing, a collision is going to cause havoc in your treatment plan. So with aligners, the ideal would be to do expansion. Let's just have a look here. I need to expand. Which tooth is the most buccal? Because if I, for instance, just take the 6 and I pull him, and immediately I have got collisions, that tooth is not going to move. So that's not a good place to start. Let's check the 5. The same. 0.7, 0.3, it's not going to work. Let's check the 4. 25.08, it's not going to work. I can see the 3 is the tooth most to the buccal, so I can start my expansion there. But that means that if I can't move the 7, if you can't move the terminal tooth and slightly distalize it when you want to do maxillary expansion, then you're going to have so much more aligners in your setup because you have to work one by one tooth to create the space for the others to move buccally. In my approach, what I do is, a second note to the clinician is, I assume there's no I'm going to try again. I assume there's no wisdom teeth present, so I have distalized the 1.7 and 2.7 to create space to do the expansion. And you need minimal expansion. You need minimal distalization to get that space. So I am going to, in this case, let's just cancel all movements. So my approach would be to take the 7 and move it distal. Let's just go, let's go 0.5. I can always make it less, but just to prevent collisions. Go 0.5 and look now. Sorry, it's not enough. I'll have to distalize more. I've still got a collision, but I've got 0.6 and that collision is in the front. So if I just expand and take it slightly distal, I have enough space. So I'm going to take it even further distal. And I'll always leave a little bit of leeway for movement that doesn't happen. So now I've got the 7 distal, I've got the 6 out, and I've got 0.46, and I can easily expand that. And in my expansion, I take it slightly to the distal. And again, hopefully I've got enough room. Let's see. 0.3 enough, and I can bring it home. And I have 10, 14, 11.4. I'd love to have more, but I know I am going to move the 3 also buccally. And look at the nice micro spaces there. Again, aligners work with very light forces. If you don't allow for micro spaces, you're going to have collisions, and your expression of the tooth movement is not going to be that accurate. Create micro spaces and make sure that you get closer to your end goal that you want to get, and do less refinements. My goal is always to get to the end and hopefully not to have to do a refinement. I love that challenge. So let's have a look. Okay, now I'm going to check. I've got enough micro spaces. I've got space to move. Still a bit of crowding there. I'm going to have to play pick-up sticks with those to get them right. But I want to check my crossbite. I'm very far from fixing the crossbite. And looking at the line there from the 7654, I'm going to have to come out so much more. Take it slightly out there, and let's check the line. That's not too bad at all. but now I've got a collision there, so I'm going to have to work more on that 7. I'm going to rotate it slightly, get a better contact, and now again I've got nice spaces around there. So let's see. So much better. I need to come out there, but looking there, that 7 can definitely come in. Again, I'm going to get a collision there, and I'm going to get a collision there. So I'm going to have to distalize. Distalize and bring it in slightly. Point 4, 0.3 maybe not enough. I'm going to play it a little bit further back, that I can have enough room around that tooth. Point 9, so I'm going to have to move more on this tooth, get it back, and it needs rotation. The terminal tooth, I said it and I'm going to say it again. The terminal tooth in your aligner setup moves with difficulty. Be careful what type of movement you're programming in there. So let's see what I did. That looks, I like the look of that. I'm getting there. Okay, from that perspective, doesn't look too bad. Let's I've distalized this tooth 1 millimeter. It's not too bad. Torque difference 0.26, and in out extrusion, intrusion, nothing. So I can live with that. There's a collision of 0.11. That is significant. So that 6 needs much more space to move through that contact area. So let's see. While I'm bringing that tooth in, this one needs to come out. And I've got more collisions. So I'm going to have to distalize more. That tooth is maybe out too far, so let's bring it back. And looking at it from the front, I've expanded. A little bit less than the half of the cusp width, and I think I can do more expansion. We'll talk about control of expansion to get bodily movement in expansion is the other very important thing to take into consideration when you want to expand. So let's have a look here. I've expanded, but looking at it from the front, I still don't have the same symmetrical view here, and I would like to, looking at that, judging by that canine and that one, I think that one can go slightly in and bring that one there. I've got so much more visibility of the second quadrant posterior teeth, which I'm not finding having here. Sort of getting the same view. I am going to to this slightly. Just a gentle curve to the back. This canine, the buccal curve, and that one is at this stage close enough. I'll do the detailing later on. Looking at the buccal surface there, I need a bit more. Let me just take the movement over the predicted or within the range of each stage, predetermined by what aligner is able to move a tooth by. Okay, but I'm still going to work on that side, but let me just pull it out. Let's do the mandible. Okay, sorted. Let's go to the maxilla. And yeah, this very close to being symmetric. I'll look at that collisions now. This side, let's just check the movements. Distalizing the 7. When it starts distalizing, the 6 comes into a collision with the 5, between the 6 and the 5 right there. So what I am going to do is maybe, just delay the movement of the 5, delay the movement of the 4, then I'm rid of all the collisions there. And then let's see, the 3 also moves. Distalizing the 7, 6 almost into place, and there we go. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now we have to get the left-hand side upper to do the same. If I look at the amount of palatal root movement there on the premolars, it looks exaggerated, but I'm not sure that the roots are starting off in the right place. So in this case, I'm going to use the fissure line and the buccal cusp and the palatal cusp to decide whether it's similar or not, and I can see it is more pronounced on that side than on this side. So I'm going to have to that was not, the teeth weren't in the final position, so, and here we've got a 7 that's really badly positioned. I said that it's, be aware that your movement on the 7s, that you really can do that. If you want to move the last tooth in the arch, how you can get more control on it is to make sure that your scan is properly, that you've got a proper scan of the distal end, distal surface of the last tooth, that the aligner is cut to make sure that it's a closed system, that you've got full hold on the total surface of that 7. And then you make use of attachments, and not tiny attachments, rather go for a big one. In my hands, I battle to get extrusion, intrusion without auxiliaries on the 7s, so I'll try not to minimize that movement, but if you've got no choice, you're going to have to make a plan. So let's just check what happened with these 7s here. Let's just watch the 0.17. Sorry, that's a 2.7. So let's watch the 2.7, what happens there. It's mainly buccal root chalk that happens on it from this view, but I recall we distalized it as well. Minimal, 0.07. Okay, but I haven't sorted my collisions out. So I'm not gonna, let's first do the collisions before I go in there. I can see I've got much more chalk on that one than on that one, so let's just sort that out. I can live with that. But there is a collision there. 0.7, 0.16, and that to this moves 0.75, so I'd rather take this one slightly forward. No, won't do that. Creates a collision to the front. It's important not to have that, but there I've got 0.16 to play with, so let's take that slightly forward. 10 is good. There I've got a 31, but I still have to do the rotations there, so rather leave that. And I'm rid for the moment of collisions in the first quadrant. So let's go and have a look at the second quadrant, what's happening there. At this stage, the 7 is hardly distalized. This 7 is distalized 0.73. So let's just create it here as well. And bring that one slightly back. Okay, I'm going to have to distalize more, because I've still got collisions here. I've got a 0.2 there. Let's use some of that space up to there. 0.3, don't think it's enough. Let's go further back. And I've got lots of space there. Utilize it. And I've got lots of space, not enough. Got a collision 2425. Again, 0.73, 0.5, so let's do it, 0.7. Collisions are gone, and I've got 10, 14, 32, which is huge, 0.2. I'm not going to go too much trouble there, because I've got a bigger problem in the bottom, and I don't know if this expansion that I did in the upper is going to be enough to alleviate my crowding here. For me, the restriction of the mandible in terms of expansion is mostly how much can the soft tissue accommodate it, not the soft tissue. How much can the periodontium accommodate it? And by the periodontium, I'm referring to the bone covering, the alveolar bone on the buccal side, as well as the gum, the gingiva that covers it. So many adults have a very, very small line of attached gingiva in the areas of the canine, in the mandible, and the first premolars. And those are the areas that most often you want to expand. If there's no recession and it's a healthy patient, a healthy periodontium, by type 1 I'd still be very careful, go very, very slow. The risk of recession is real. In an adult where there's already signs of recession, you've lost attached gingiva, there's no cell, it's not going to regenerate. So I try to aim to keep the position where the crown meets the gingiva. That CJ, hopefully it's not exposed, to keep it at the same position or even take it more into the bone. In this case, let's just add the gums and see. And you can see there is very, very limited attached gingiva. The 4 is slightly better. There's my line of attached gingiva. Again, a limited amount. But I need expansion to relieve this crowding. So this is a problem. It's a real problem. So let's see. Let's see how far we go, how far we can get. I've done my expansion at the top. I think there's a bit of, I overcorrected that 6. And I overcorrected the lingual crown torque. Let's bring it back slightly. I am afraid that the amount of expansion that I did is not going to be sufficient. Point 11, I can't go more distal. I can get this to rotate it slightly in and bring it out. 19, it can go to the distal. I know every point of a millimeter makes a difference in terms when you want to relieve crowding, but I also know that that movement that you see on the screen doesn't always get expressed in the aligner movement. So besides creating micro spaces, I will always leave those spaces open until I've made my last movements, and then I close it, almost like a virtual power chain, which is another important point for discussion. So 11.2 is for me slightly too small amount. I'm still going to need space here for the collision, so let's see. 0.48, okay, I've got 25 in the bank. Let's go even more distal. Now I'm back 1.37. It starts becoming dicey. But yes, let's see. Fortunately, I know this clinician and I know his abilities, and that also makes for me a huge difference in terms of how I plan the case. Judged by the buccal surface, the amount of surface I see, I can actually bring that out more. Then it looks weird with the root, so that tells me that root is not actually representing the real root. Most probably not. 89, 51, let's see. 51, 48, I'm going to need more here. Play around by 10. Use my... down to 10. I'm going to need a slight bit of tipping of the root as well to line up the marginal ridges. Let's get that in play. There we've got that. 0.25, I can go more distal. 54, I can go to the distal, and while I do that, also rotate. 13, I'm still short. Need a lot of space, and I haven't aligned my teeth yet. and it's already 1.37. Also, the patient started with a good, relatively class 1 relationship. I need to keep it at that. So the amount that I've distalized there is not the same that I have there. So I'm going to have to do more distalization at the top, judged by what I have here. Different way to approach it would have been to align the mandible, to get all of that right and make the garage fit around that. So in hindsight, I should have done it the reverse way round. But let's continue. Again, this root looks funny being forward. So let's just check marginal ridges. Yes, it is too low there, so let's get it right. And go back. Hindsight is always best side. So let's just work a little bit on the top, create space to move the bottom ones. I'll redo those movements. At this stage, I'm only working to see how much expansion I am going to do to make the garage bigger. And there's the question of this lateral incisor that is smaller. Still got crowding there. Got a bit of space there that I can play with. I can't steal too much from the midline, but let's see. Just sort of an idea what's going on there. Look at the finer detail later on. Question is, can I bring those two teeth forward? And I have to check the patient's supporting structure if I can do that or not. And I can tell you guys, there is room. There is enough attached gingiva. The 3s and the 4s are a problem, but in the central incisor or the mandibular incisor area, there is room. So let's see. If I follow that arch shape, am I going to be able to make these teeth fit? Let's go and work on that. I would actually prefer, let's see, if I keep the three one and the 4-1, let's delete all movements on them and use them as our guide or our reference tooth, and we take that one just slightly forward to line them. I would love to use that as my guide and line these up. There we go. But we need a lot of space here. So let's just see. Still need derotation, and okay, one can see immediately looking at these, there's 0.68 and this, the 3.4 is much more mesial than the 4.4. So these still needs to be distalized, which I did there. It fits in with the picture, so let's just quickly do that. There we go. And I've got a more symmetric tooth positions there, and I've only got a collision. Huge collision still here. Distalized 1.42, that's quite an amount. It's totally possible with aligners, but it's just going to take time. 1.64, 1.21, so I distalized more on that one, which surface running there, it's not contour. That's a bit odd. There you can see the nice line and the buccal line. So not sure whether that's maybe a crown giving me that has been repaired into the position where it originally was. So I'm going to be guided by the buccal contour there, which then means that I'm going to have to put it there, buccal. It's still odd. Coming more into symmetry. Contact point is there. Get the contact point there. And let's see. It's just being pushed distal. Okay, that can work. Oh, 232532306. Can bring this slightly forward. Okay. Now I sit with a lot of collisions here, but let's just see what happened to the bite, what happened, because I've got no end movements with collisions. I'll sort that out. There's a 0.35. I haven't moved the 3.1 at all. So guided by that tooth, which is not bad. But between the 3.1 and the 3.2, during the movement is a huge, and you can see there, 3.1, 3.2, a huge collision worked up there. So which is going to cause me to have the 3.2 move at a later stage. This one moved later, and there unravels my collisions. Still 3.5. That's not an improvement. at the max of the collision, 0.35, I've got 0.15, 0.4, 0.4, which is not enough to to give me resolution of this collision here. So what I'm going to have to do is real like round tripping, which, taking the 3 into account, there's a lot of movement already. What I'll do is, let's just see. Let's just get these. Okay, before I do that, let's have a look at that. Distalizing, you can't move 6s, 7s, 5s and 4s all at the same time. So I'm already going to have to stage and play there. 8 aligners, let's test, I can take it to 7. Let's push the limits. 3 aligners later, the 6 starts moving. Okay, let's not push the limits. There we go. Can make that one shorter. There we go. Can only start moving if the 7 is in place. And the 4 can only move, let's just see. 4, 5 is a lot of movement. Can only move 2 teeth at a time here. So 4, 5, 4, 6 moving here, but I've got a collision there. So I'm going to have to push it out. Let's see what it looks like. 4th quadrant. 7 going, 7 going, 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 5 coming, 4 coming, collision with a 3 there. So I want the final position of the 4th 3. There we go. Going to make use of round trapping with the canine there, the 4th 3. So although that is the last position, I want to use it to create more space for my round tripping, and I'm going to go way out, creating a lot of space here, a lot of space there. And the 4, 3. For that massive amount of movement, only need 4 aligners, and see how much space I have created. I said I can't move them more than 2 teeth at a time, but this is moving them distally. Let's see if there's going to be a restriction distally, and those moving. I don't see a problem moving the canine at the same time than the 4 and the 5. And that helps me with a lot of space here. I'm actually going to move it 0.45, 0.38. I'm going to, let's see. That 0.4 there bugs me, so I would love to have the 5 slightly more distal, but I can't take away all of that space, so let's just see. Spacing, 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 and I've got a lot of space there, so let's go slightly distal. There we go. Now I've got space to work here to get that tooth in there. I'm going to do a lot of round tripping here. So let's see, the 4-1. Comes in that collision there, but I've got this space, and I am going to move the tooth slightly not slightly, I'm going to use a lot of that space there. There we go. Let's just see the movement. It goes, yeah, this works well. The 4 one, let's go to it there. And in this final position there, 0.34, so I am going to take it. Use some of that space there. And I am can now move the 3-1 slightly to that side to relieve this collision. So I still need some of this space here. Gone, it's my collision. Whoop. Okay, let's see. 0.5, 0.9, I would have loved to have more space there. Got in the bank here, but for the time being, let's get there. Let's check the amount of expansion. There's a lot this side, not a lot. So let's see what happened here. My question is, can I intrude at the same time it's moving there? I'm going to need attachments to do that, but I think it's small amount enough to be able to do it at the same time, and the same for that one. Now the question is, we'll close these gaps as small movements. Afterwards, what do I have? How does it fit into the top arch? Did I make the garage big enough? And if not, let's quickly why did this happen? Let's go back there. This stage, 0.5, we need 2. I need more room here, much more room than this. Even this 0.5 here is not good enough for me. So let's just take this tooth, 3, slightly distal. And this one. Still. to slow down the movement of the 4-1. No, it's not doing the trick. But it should. Doesn't make sense to me. Mm-hmm. At this point I need more space here. So that one, the 4-2, needs to wait with its movement. And the 4-3 have to be moved even further out. And not only buccally, but distobuccally. That space there is way too little. I'm a bit concerned about that. Let's keep an eye on it. Just for that moment there, we've got a 0.3 at stage 8. There we go, there we go, there we go. Okay, now I've got, again, space here. Let's see, where's that tooth? Go there. And I've got 0.44. Let's use that. 0.62. Let's go to the end of that tooth. And it shouldn't move. Delay. Three, 1, 3, 2. Still a 0.8. Can you believe it? Ay, ay, ay. That. Okay, so let's check on this side. Five aligners, so let's go 3 down the line. Start only when the 7 is in place, only when the 5 is in place, the 6, sorry, and let's bring that up. 3, 3, your movement. Let's just get the correct length. There we go. 3 should almost be the last tooth to move. Now I'm creating more collisions. That's not good. Now we need to close all these gaps. We've got them in without any collisions, lots of space for them to move to get a predictable treatment. So we'll fix that midline when we close the spaces. So let's just first check. Just get a clean view, get rid of all these obstructions. In the final position, let's see. Bottom shape. I'm going to have to take them to the final to see. Let's just check on the cusps. Okay, so before I check the final expansion, let me just sort out the rotations. There's one of two ways of closing the gaps at the end. If it is a case that you expanded, some of the companies offer you virtual power chain, and what does a power chain do? It just closes all the gaps by bringing the teeth inward. If you expanded and you need that expansion for whatever reason, for the periodontium, for correct inclination, and you just do that, you're going to lose all that torque. If the case was too much overexpanded, like a proclination, a bimaxillary protrusion, and you want to bring it in, use a virtual power chain or close all the gaps just by bringing the teeth in. In this case, where I worked hard to get my expansion, I don't want to lose it, I'm going to have to do those movements and close all the gaps forward. 1, 1, then the 2s, then the canines, then the 4s, 5s, 6s. So I'm happy with the case. I've got the teeth in the final positions. I still need to do attachments, but I also need to send it to the dentist for review. And most of the times they come with requests and changes, etc. So I'm not going to go into the detail of the case now to get the final as if in an approval. I'm going to wait till I get it back from the review session. And I have to also say that these last little bit of movements I did, when I added it, it was added to the last movements, which is not the right place to be added. But again, because it's just for a review, I'm going to leave it there. And then once it is approved, then I will check those last final movements and I will look at the attachments.